There's a silence most of us aren't comfortable with. It's not the silence of a library or the kind that comes just before sleep. It's the silence that creeps in when no one texts back, when no one checks in, when the house is quiet, when you scroll through your feed and it feels like everyone else has someone, but you don't. That's the kind of alone we're afraid of. But why? Why does being alone feel so heavy sometimes? So unbearable, so loud, even in silence? Maybe it starts early. When we're children, we're told to hold someone's hand, to stick with the group, to sit with friends, to not eat lunch alone. And somewhere in that teaching, we internalize a dangerous message, that being alone means being unloved, unwanted, forgotten. But that's not true. It's just a fear that's learned so young, it feels like truth. Still, that fear stays with us. It shows up in how we stay in conversations that drain us, in relationships that hurt, in jobs that crush us, because at least they keep us busy. At least we're not alone. We fill our calendars. We stay up late with noise in the background. We reach for our phones in every moment of quiet, not to connect, but to escape the stillness. Because what if that stillness says something about us? What if it means no one cares? What if it confirms the lie that we're not enough, all on our own? But here's the thing. Being alone and feeling lonely are not the same thing. You can be surrounded by people and feel painfully unseen. You can sit at a crowded dinner table and feel a million miles away from everyone. And you can sit alone in a room and feel deeply whole, fully connected to yourself, to something greater, to peace. Because alone isn't a punishment. It's a space, a blank canvas, and what you fill it with changes everything. So let's ask a different question. Not, why do we fear being alone? But what might we find if we weren't afraid of it? Maybe we'd hear our own voice again. Not the version shaped by expectations, not the voice that constantly compares, but the one that whispers truths when everything else gets quiet. Maybe we'd start to know ourselves, not as others define us, but as we really are. And maybe, just maybe, we'd start to like what we find. Being alone is where we meet ourselves. It's where we heal without performance. It's where we process, grieve, breathe, and dream. It's where we ask questions no one else can answer for us. What do I need? What makes me feel alive? What hurts that I haven't looked at yet? Who am I when no one is watching? They're uncomfortable questions, but they're the ones that change everything. We live in a world addicted to connection, but often starved of depth. We message, scroll, swipe, and like. But real closeness, real presence, that takes time. And ironically, solitude helps us create that depth. Because you can't connect deeply with others if you're disconnected from yourself. You can't love someone fully when you've abandoned yourself to avoid being alone. So what if we started looking at solitude differently? What if it wasn't the empty room, but the sacred space? What if we stopped seeing aloneness as rejection and started seeing it as return? Return to stillness, to clarity, to truth. Because when you learn how to be with yourself, fully and gently, you stop settling for half-hearted connections. You stop reaching just to avoid the silence. You start listening to what hurts, to what hopes, to what you've been ignoring in the noise of always being surrounded. Yes, being alone can feel scary, but it can also be freeing. It can be the moment you realize you're not missing something. You're not broken. You're just quiet enough to hear your own soul again. So why do we fear being alone? Maybe because we confuse solitude with emptiness. But in truth, solitude can be one of the most full, sacred, empowering experiences we ever have. And maybe the real question isn't, how do I avoid being alone? But what can I create in this space that's just mine? And if you're reading this and you feel lonely, know this. You are still worthy. You are still whole. And this season will pass. Use it, shape it, let it shape you. Because from solitude can come the deepest self-love, the clearest direction, and the kind of peace that doesn't disappear when people do.